Hey everyone, it's John Ashburton here with a live Q&A session tonight. We haven't run one of these, well, when I do the live calls I'm always answering questions. We thought I'd just jump on tonight, a couple of reasons. One, because we haven't done just a live Q&A before, but also because usually within the gold access of our programs at this time, at the moment, we would have our mentoring call, but we had a bit of a glitch in the system, it appears, and it wasn't online to be registered, and it's just the replay of last week is what everybody was seeing. So anyway, so we thought we'd use that scheduled time to do a Q&A session here. So if you've got any questions, I did get a couple that were emailed beforehand that I can go through, but if you are jumping on this live broadcast and you have a question, let me know. I'll be happy to answer it. So yeah, let me bring up the screen as well for you. I know there's a few people here, so yeah, just give me a shout out, say hello, let me know if you want me to talk about any specific state, or if you've got a very specific question, happy to see what we can do, help you out. But I'm going to show you my screen as well. Yep, okay. So the first one was chatting with someone today about South Australia police selection. And so, in fact, just before we go any further, I always remind you that we're not affiliated with any of these police recruit services that we talk about. We're just focused on preparing you for the exams, but we have no affiliation from them, right? So sort of in line with that, when people say, oh, well, you know, whilst we provide some resources in helping you make a decision about whether or not this is the right career for you, I was encouraged, as I did on the phone with this person today, to actually go to the information night. So for example, with South Australia, we have, if you go onto their website and you go to, I'm just on the page now, you just look at this events page and you just go to events and it will load this up. It's got all the different events and things, but but we also have here the SAPOL recruitment seminars, right? So that one's full. You can find the next one here is in February, just here, right? And then it talks about sort of what's there, etc. Right? Now, even if you have a a little bit bigger so you can see me again. Even if you're like fully committed, and you're like, no, I don't need to go to any more sessions or anything like that. I know this is just what I want to do, right? So if that's the case, what I recommend is you still go to these sessions for a couple of reasons. One is that you don't know what you don't know. So there's going to be no better place to really get information than straight from the horse's mouth, I suppose, straight from recruiting, both on the career expectations and also, of course, the selection process itself, because that session is going to be your most up-to-date resource because it's literally people talking to you live, right? So there may even be some discrepancies on, you know, with South Australia, for example, the testing information on the TAFE SA site, or the whole recruitment process on the website might not be 100% up to date, but you're going to get all those answers just there. But secondly, the other reason I suggest that you go to these sessions, this doesn't matter what state you're in, if you're just joining us, this is for, you know, it doesn't matter if this is Queensland, Victoria, right, Western Australia, they all run these sort of information sessions. The second reason to go to these is because you will probably be asked if you went to it when you do your application, right? It may even be on the application form. In some states they do that, but certainly in the interview stage, if they haven't already asked it previously, they will probably ask you, did you go to the information night? Now, it's not just so they know, okay, do you know this information or not? It can be a gauge, again, I'm just hypothesizing here, but right, it can be a gauge of your interest and your commitment to actually taking action, how seriously you're taking this application, whether or not you're doing everything you can do to make your application stand out and really demonstrate through action that you are serious about this career, right? So they're the really, you know, that's sort of the two reasons I recommend that you do go and check out these sessions. Do everything you can, take all the information that you can get from these recruitment sites, like the South Australia Police one that I'm giving an example of just here. Right, so that's just a quick example here. Okay, I've got a couple of questions here. Anurag is just asking me about Queensland. That's just your specific state. Let me know if you've got a specific question. And Silvio, good to hear from you again. Yes, you've got a question on calculators. Can you just remind me, was this Victoria? If you can just let me know which state you're preparing for, Silvio, with your question. I got heaps more questions coming in now. So yeah, let me know. A person who asked about calculators. let me know which state you're talking about. Well, actually, I can answer that anyway. There is only, as far as we know right now, there's only one state where you can use a calculator, and that's in the new numeracy test for Victoria. Right, so these are new tests. The ACER test has changed in 2019, where in the new numeracy tests, I'll show you what I'm talking about here. The new numeracy test, you can use a calculator, right? So Queensland you're talking about, right? Okay, well I'm going to finish answering this question first anyway now, in case there's anyone from Queensland, from Victoria, and I'll come back to Queensland. Hang on a minute. No, that's not going to take me where I need to go. Let's see if I can just bring it up here. We have a look at the recruitment process here. Entry requirements, note recruitment process. I'll have a quick look here. Let me make me a bit smaller so you can see what I'm talking about. The entrance exam here. So what I'm talking about is this ACER exam here. So with the numeracy skills, this is what I'm talking about. There's now a new format where it's sort of extrapolating data from worksheets and things like that. It's a little bit more complicated, some of the questions, and so some of it you're allowed to use a calculator. So it does state in one of the documents that you can use a scientific calculator. However, we have also got reports that you are provided a calculator within the testing platform, right? I mean, that's their way to control exactly what's on your calculator, right? Because otherwise there could be all sorts of things on your calculator that aren't allowed in, particularly if they let you in with a scientific calculator. So, yes, that's the only exception that we're aware of. Otherwise, no. So Sylvia, I answered your question with Queensland. No, you can't use a calculator. Now, of course, you could with the Wonderlic test because it's unsupervised. But I really discourage you from doing that. Firstly, because it's cheating, and you're breaching your integrity there. You're not meant to use a calculator for it. But second of all, it's just wasting an opportunity to actually put yourself under the pump and under pressure to actually answer those numeracy tests with the Queensland Wonderlic test, because some of them are of similar difficulty, but in fact the supervised exam may require you to answer more difficult maths questions or numeracy questions. So if you needed a calculator in that first one, which is unsupervised, it's not going to set you up well for that second one, right? So we really recommend that you prepare and you improve your, I refer to as sort of your mathematical agility, which is not just, it's basic math skills, but in our resources, you've probably got access to our ebook, Maths Made Easy. So within the training products, within most of the states, in fact, we still give it for Victoria as well. We do provide a ebook called Maths Made Easy, and in that there's a lot of tricks and things to speed up answering these questions. So so on that note, do try to do it without a calculator. Let me just circle back to some of these questions. Okay, Sherry, do we do online tutoring for the interview? Yes, so we've had a bit of a change in our tutoring this year. So the way it works now is with the online tutoring and mentoring, it's broken down into two categories now. So whereas we used to have like premium deluxe levels of access, now we have just a silver and a gold, right? So anybody that has that gold level of access, and if you had the old deluxe level with our resources, that would include that. You can book in for mentoring calls with myself once a week, and tutoring calls with one of the other team members. Taylor's currently running those, so her sessions are also once a week, and you can book in for those calls and get that tutorage just there, right? So if you have got questions about that, yeah, Sherry, just look into that gold access. If you already have our products, but it was on the old version, just drop me an email look, I'll just put it in here in the comments. You can just email through to support@policeprep.com.au regarding inquiries for mentoring and tutoring access. I don't know if that's come up. Don't know if it's come up as something. There you go, you can see that there it's come up from our state just there. So Stevie, I'm going to answer your question now because it's sort of related to it. You're on the silver package, do you want to go to the gold? Which specific state are you in? I can answer that question, I'll come back to you. Let's have a circle back. Okay, I'll come back to that question. So Sheriff, hopefully that answers your question. Gillian, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm going to answer yours. You finished your application. How do you make your why I want to be a police officer stand out, right? So that's a really good question. So some of the states you actually get asked this in the selection exams, even though it's not included. Western Australia, for example, can include that question. And some of you have it in your application, right? So why would you like to be a police officer? So there's a couple of things to consider about this. We do provide some additional resources with this within the states that actually have writing tests, but there's a couple of things to bear in mind with this question. One is that it is a test of your written communication. So there is like the straight out, how's your grammar, how's your spelling? Does it make sense? Like, are you talking in a logical sequence, or are you jumping around all over the place? Like, does it read like methodically? That's, all the sort of things that come into mind into preparing a logical essay, right? And then the other side of it is actually what do you actually write down, right? So, and I think that's probably what you're looking at. I mean, how do you actually stand out from that? And so it can be useful when you're thinking about, and this can be, I mean, whether this is in your essay or this is in your interview, when they will ask you again, why do you want to be a police officer? And remember, even at the interview stage, there's like hundreds of people coming through. And I mean, it's helpful to think of it that recruiting are not looking to exclude people, even though they are. They're looking to include people. And what I mean by that is that they have a very tough job. Like they're interviewing a lot of people, right? Or they're reading a lot of these applications. I mean, and they're looking for people to stand out to them. I mean, they're looking for some reason to actually say, oh, okay, this person is actually meeting the criteria that I have here, that I have to be, adhering to, because it's not, it's not whether or not they like you. I mean, that can help probably, but they have guidelines as well and things like that, right? So, we actually talked about this in last week's mentoring call in detail with WA, for example, because they used to have what they referred to as the 22 dimensions of a constable. They don't use it anymore specifically, but there are specific character traits, right? So, you can, again, this is where it pays to go to those information evenings, but even just going through the resources of your particular state, having a look at what appears to be the type of people that they're looking for, can be very, very helpful. And so on that line, when you want to talk about, okay, standing out, okay, you might identify, and again, I'm sort of going to keep this brief because I want to answer everyone's questions, but this is the sort of thing that we delve into in real depth in the mentoring sessions. But just to give you an example, if you wanted to say, okay, well, I anticipate that leadership may be a useful aspect for a police officer, because it's not just a matter of self-leadership at leading a team, but really establishing a presence in what are often very confusing or hectic or dangerous situations where members of the public are involved and they look to you for guidance, right? So you are in a leadership role, right? And so you might, someone might write down that they are, what might they might say something like, okay, well, yeah, one of the reasons that I would be a great police officer, or that I want to be a police officer, is I think I have a great ability or potential in leadership. And then they just keep writing about something else. However, the more prepared applicant would probably, now again, I'm not telling you to write leadership. If that's not one of your strengths, then it's something else, right? But I'm just saying, if it was, then you need to go down and think about, well, actually, how would I answer that? And in an interview, I need to put that into my essay. So to say, well, if I'm going to highlight that as a strength, why is it a strength, and why am I even bringing it up, right? So you might actually say, I see this as a relevant characteristic of mine, because I anticipate as a police officer I may be required to X, Y, Z, right? Be in a leadership position, both as all the stuff I just said a minute ago, right? Okay, so I may be required to, people look to me for taking control of a situation, whether it be my fellow officers or the members of the public that I'm helping, which is why I think it would be a useful characteristics of mine. And this is something I've developed in whatever it is, my experience. And this doesn't have to be my background before the police service was I was an infantry officer. I had genuine I had leadership experience there. But you know what, when I applied for the military, I brought up my leadership experience from previous experience in sporting teams. I wasn't the captain of the team, but I still had leadership experience in just, performing my role on the field, and looking to encourage others. And then, even within, maybe you have something like what was another example that we had? Like you might be in a supervisory role within a retail position, right? You might be a supervisor in a retail shop or a night fill team or something like that. So it doesn't have to be in the same field, but just think about examples that you can raise, right? So just to close this off, if I can, in this question in a more articulate sense, I like to use the ACE model. Now, the ACE model is what I use instead of the, what is the one I don't like? I think it's the STAR model, which people use in interviews. I don't like it. I really advocate the ACE model, which is actually something I learned from a university professor in essay skills. So this goes back to your question about essays. And the ACE model stands for the argument, the context, and the example, right? So if leadership is what you're bringing up, the context is why you're even bringing it up, why it's relevant to a police officer, and the E is the example of why this is actually a skill, right? So if you want to stand out in your essay, give some depth to your response is what I'm getting at. Okay, so let me see, I've got heaps of questions. Stevie WA. I don't even know, what did you ask before that? You asked about the gold package, right? Okay, so the difference you're going to get is you're going to get access to the physical, what do they call over there? The PPE, the physical physical performance exam. Sorry, you have your PEE, police entrance exam, and then you have your physical performance exam. Anyway, it's called the PPE. Your physical test, we provide the assistance for that. That's in the gold package. And you also, right now, if you upgrade to the gold, you also get access to the Police Academy Secrets course. So that was a webinar series. I ran it over about a 6-week period. That was a couple of years ago now, but it's still relevant. And I mean, people pay like $300-500 to attend it live, but this is the replay series. We put in about 4 weeks of bonus videos there about how to actually, get along with other recruits, how to integrate police academy life and then police life with the rest of everything else that you've got going on. That's all in that program, right? So that's included as well if you upgrade to the gold level. And then, Stevie, the other big one is the mentoring sessions, right? So once a week chatting with me about any concerns, more of a holistic view of your application, or albeit with the interviews. And the tutoring sessions as well, right? So you get access to that. So that's what's in the gold package. So I hope that answers your question. If you want to drop your email, probably do it in a private message to that support@policeprep.com.au rather than just in here on the chat. Stevie, just drop me an email and I can send you a link on how you can do that if you want to go down that, and you can see what that option is. Okay, and I think I'm almost caught up. Okay, and Antonetta, how many times can you resit the exams? Unless there's a reason like a medical reason or a psychological reason excluding you, most recruitment services will actually let you come back and resit the exam. For a lot of people, the concern is not so much whether you can resit the exam, but when. Because certain states like Queensland, for example, it's a minimum 12-month wait before you can even reapply. And they're pretty strict on it, right? So even if you let's say you have I'll give you two scenarios, right? You could say you complete every aspect of the selection, like you get to the interview, you get knocked back for some stage, 12 months and you can reapply, right? And at the other end, you might be doing your unsupervised exam. So for those of you that aren't aware, if you're applying for Queensland or the AFP, their first exam, you actually just sit on your own computer. And that exam, if you fail it, even if your connection times out or something that's just beyond your control, then it's just too bad. And so you know what you're going to get? You'll get an email that says you're welcome to reapply in 12 months, because it's just, it's scripted, right? And you can't just reapply with different details. Like, you have to give all your identifying particulars, right, when you're applying for the police service. So yeah, so that's one to be mindful of, is that yes, you may be able to reapply, but it could take you a long time. Which state are you talking about? This is for Victoria? Yeah, okay. So Victoria is an interesting one because, I had their sheet up here a second ago, didn't I? Yeah, so Victoria is a funny one because, see all these aspects just here? With Victoria, all this list on the side here, they actually give you your marks for each individual one after your exam. and if you fail a particular component, you can resit just that component, which is cool for a couple of reasons. One is that it's expensive to having to keep reset these because Victoria actually charge you to sit the exam. So, you know, those of you in WA and Queensland, I think you can be I think you're sort of lucky that you don't have to pay to apply. Whereas like Victoria, South Australia, a few other states, you actually have to pay for the privilege of even putting your application in. So in Victoria you can resit individual components of that exam. So, and again, like you'd have to, again, I just remind you, we're not affiliated with any recruitment office, any of the police recruiting. So whether or not there's a limit to how many times you can reapply, I recommend you ask that directly to Victoria Recruiting. So I'm going to quickly double check if I haven't answered anybody's question. And I think we're all covered off. So yeah, so that's all the live questions there. There was one more thing that somebody asked about. You know, this is basically one of the common questions we get about, is it worth preparing for the exams, right? I mean, obviously, you know, we sell preparation resources, right? Okay, so we're going to say, well, yeah, you should prepare and you should use our programs, right? But like, honestly, like, preparing for the exams is twofold, right? It's for, if any of you attended the recent webinars that I've been running, and I talk about this in there, but really there's two aspects of your results on the day. And your results in your exams, whether it be your physical exams, your interviews, your exam preparation, right, really comes down to just two factors. And one is your ability, so whatever your potential is to, you know, answer whatever questions are in front of you. Like, you know, you have an ability, right? So if you practice and you train, your ability increases, okay? So that's one aspect of it. But the second one is your ability to perform on the day. And what I mean is that you could, like, I could give you the actual exam and say, look, these are the questions that you have to answer, right? We don't do that, and I wouldn't do it even if we could, because it would jeopardize the exam. But you could have like the exact preparation, have spent hours rehearsing for it. But if you have a bit of a brain freeze, or you just lock up in an exam, or you start getting flustered, you're not used to sitting in a silent room surrounded by other people that are all sitting in a test, thinking about how are they doing, how am I going to do, you don't know how long, you forgot to bring a watch, and you don't know how long you've got left for the tests, and etc., your performance can degrade, right? So we look at preparing both the performance aspect and the ability aspect, right? So by practicing, there's actually two things going on. One is you're getting more comfortable with answering these sort of questions, and secondly, you are getting more comfortable. Sorry, you're getting better at the questions, right? So it's improving in your skills and improving in your familiarity and comfort in actually sitting exam questions. Cool. So just got one more question here before we close off. Mo, are you talking about Victoria? If you can just let me know, because that's the one that, you know, that I am specifically changing. I mean, either way, whichever state you're asking for, it sounds like it's a question you specifically want to ask recruiting. But basically, I can see that you're asking here, you sat an exam last year and you're going to do a resit. Are they going to resit you on the old one or the new one? Yeah, I don't know, right? Fully, I don't know what the answer to that is, because I can see where you're coming from. Like, what they say is that if you're applying and, you know, what they're saying is if you're sitting the exam in 2019 on, it's the new version. Up to that, you know, this was back in December, they're like, it's the old one, right? So I would anticipate it's the new one, because I doubt that they would be running two different versions. That would sound like a very confusing way to do it. However, I would definitely ask recruiting that question, and it's well worth checking, because as you're probably aware, the exam format has changed. Well, having said that, right, you know exactly what's changed. The numeracy and the literacy tests have changed, right? They both changed quite a bit. So it would be worth checking. And if you have our resources, we have now, you know, superseded it, and you can only access, you know, what really prepares you for the 2019. If you do get feedback that they're giving you a reset of your first version, let us know. We can give you access to what you had prior. But I would anticipate it's the new one, but look, double check. I would double check either directly with ASA if they'll talk to you, or police recruiting. I know it can be a pain to get, you know, to actually get through to the right person, but yeah, I would double check that. Cool. So that's all the questions answered. If you're watching the replay of this and you had another question, let me know in the comments below, and we will envisage getting back to you. Finally, let me know in the comments if this has been helpful, and if you would like me to run more of these sessions. Let me know in the comments what you think. If there's any feedback here, that's really, really helpful. But yeah, otherwise, all the best with your preparation for your exams and your coming police exams. Absolutely, and all the best with your police selection.